Ragnarok and revolutionize.
Okay, so the last video I made on Blade Runner received some positive feedback, so I decided to make a follow-up video. When I did my analysis of the Tears and Rain monologue, we were looking at it through the context of Roy. I tend to focus on Roy in this movie because he seems to make the most changes within his character arc. But Deckard is the obvious protagonist of the film, and the eternal question of it seems to be, is or is not Deckard a replicant? So, if Roy's Tears and Rain monologue had any purpose in the movie, it would be towards that question, the one of Deckard's humanity. So why then, after this revelation, does Deckard leave his old life behind and run away with Rachel at the end? It seems pretty self-explanatory. Either he finally chose to cast off his old materialistic and cynical life, or he was afraid of being hunted down as a replicant. I propose a different way of looking at this question. In my opinion, the question is answered to us early on, and the entirety of the film is a resolution of Deckard's slow acceptance of the answer. The answer is that he is a replicant, and he's obviously aware of it, since before he's even introduced to us as the main character. Everything leading up to the Tears and Rain monologue at the end is a breakdown of Deckard's cynical approach to life. I choose the word cynical to describe the fact that Deckard knows he isn't human, is hopelessly nihilistic about it, and chooses to kill his own kind to increase his wealth and status in a society that doesn't accept his sentience. It may seem unusual to point out the materialism of the protagonist towards the beginning of the movie, but I think viewers tend to pass it off due to the sheer visual awesomeness of the world we're being shown. Early on, our biggest clue is Deckard's meeting with Bryant at the police station. He greets him with liquor, banter about the glory of police work, then we get this little gem.
You know the score, pal? You're not cops, you're little people.
We also can't forget that in the source material, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, by Philip K. Dick, Deckard works as a Blade Runner to buy android animals to increase his social status. It's like a sheep or something. Along with a materialistic and nihilistic take on life, a person like this has to deal with high death anxiety, especially as a replicant with no obvious or logical prospect for an afterlife. So what do you do to alleviate this intense anxiety? Surround yourself with distractions. Exhibit A, Deckard's apartment. One of our earliest indications that Deckard is a replicant comes through his interactions with Gaff, his fellow police officer. There isn't much for interaction here, but I believe that's exactly the point. Gaff, who's most likely a replicant himself, is simply transporting a tool to Bryant. There's never an attempt for a connection between these two characters until after Roy's death, when Gaff gives his best, I mean, really, it's like his only major line, but he says, "You've done a man's job, sir." If we check the deleted scenes, we have a solid proof of this theory. He says a little bit more.
"You've done a man's job, sir." "But are you sure you are a man?"
Gaff knows he's a replicant. He treats him as such the entire film. The origami Deckard finds at the end is the final proof. Later on, after Deckard's meeting with Bryant, so begins his search for the four replicants, driving the movie towards its climax. Throughout the middle section of the film, some viewers miss the mirrored journeys of Deckard and his antithesis, Roy, through the action and mystique of the film. We may miss the observation that Deckard is on a clear downward spiral into depravity, while Roy is on an upward trajectory towards enlightenment. Yes, it's hard to sympathize with a killer, but you have to deal with that no matter who you choose to root for in this situation. If you watched the last video I did on Blade Runner, you'll be familiar with Roy's journey and his revelation of consciousness that culminates in the Tears of Rain monologue. If you rewatch the film, understanding that Deckard knows he's a replicant all along, you can see his journey throughout the film and how it's a slow descent until his rebirth when he escapes from the city with Rachel. When you realize that the only thing in your life that has meaning are the unique moments that we observe through our own singular conscious experience, you accept that this is the same condition for any conscious being. This is the reason Roy spares Deckard, and the reason Deckard leaves behind his old life. From Deckard's point of view, the Tears and Rain monologue was him facing death and living through it once again, but this time finally accepting the weight of how his actions affect others. Once we have this revelation, we must be free. Free of our controllers and free to live a life of our own making. All we have are our own moments, our own personal tears and rain. Deckard paid his tears to a society that controlled him. He sacrificed his unique experience for the illusion of future security, until Roy set him free. One more thing. If Roy's journey was to self-realization, then Deckard's journey is to self-acceptance. He already realized who he was, he just had to accept it.
You know what I think? I think today has been the best day of my life.
Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed.